The door clicked shut behind them. Room 104 was done. Mara didn't speak as she stepped into the hall. Jake followed, running a hand through his hair, still shaking off whatever that last broadcast had been. A few paces ahead, the latchkeeper stood waiting, hands behind his back, eyes shaded beneath the brim of his faded cap. He offered a key without a word. No number on the tag. Just worn brass, slightly warm to the touch. Jake took it. Mara raised an eyebrow. "This one open anything?" The latchkeeper gave the faintest nod. "One door at a time. You choose." Jake eyed the rows of identical doors lining the corridor. "And what's behind them?" "I don't go in," the latchkeeper replied. "I just carry keys." With that, he turned and disappeared behind the corner, footsteps soft, coat barely brushing the floor. Mara sighed. Cryptic bastard. Jake turned the key over in his palm. "Let's try one that feels quieter." They walked a few doors down and stopped at one marked 3113. There was nothing special about it, brass numbers askew, paint peeling from the frame, just a door like the others. But something about it felt still. Jake inserted the key. It turned easily. The door creaked open. Room 313 smelled like dust and Elmer's glue. Inside, the curtains were half drawn, letting in a pale, washed-out light that bleached the room in a cold hue. A child's school desk sat against the wall, legs uneven, its surface cluttered with small origami figures, each one shaped like a child, folded from yellowing notebook paper. Some sat, some stood. All faced the bed. A cracked chalkboard eraser lay in the corner. Crushed juice boxes, blunt scissors, and a pile of tangled string littered the carpet like the remnants of an abandoned craft project. A laminated name tag peeked out from beneath the debris. Eli, 2nd grade. Near the nightstand, a neatly arranged kit of gear waited. Food rations, water purifier, first aid, knife, flare, untouched. Jake looked to Mara. "Same deal. We don't touch anything until the show ends." She gave a nod and sat on the edge of the bed, eyes lingering on the paper children. "You think someone made these for real kids?" Jake didn't answer. He just picked up the remote, pointed it at the silent black screen, and pressed the button. The screen hummed. The image sharpened, and the paper children began. The door creaked open, the soft scrape of rusted hinges echoing through the empty corridor. The faint glow of flashlights cut through the dusty air, settling on peeling paint and cracked tile floors. "All right, here we are," the taller boy said, stepping inside the classroom first. A girl with a ponytail shuffled in behind him, her eyes scanning the room. "It smells like old books and glue. Did you bring any masks?" He shook his head. Forgot. Figured it'd just be dust. The third in their group, a quieter boy adjusting his glasses, moved carefully between the desks. "This place feels weird, like it's holding its breath." The last, a girl clutching a camcorder, set it to record and whispered, "Keep your voices down. We don't want to disturb anything." Desks were arranged in neat rows, but each was covered with folded paper figures. Cranes, boats, tiny animals, and dozens of humanoid shapes, all meticulously crafted. Some were perched on chair backs, others sat in careful groups on tabletops. "Look at all this," the ponytailed girl said, kneeling beside a desk. "Who folds this many?" The boy with glasses leaned closer, tracing a crease on a small paper child. "There's names written on some of them." The tallest boy picked up one labeled Eli. "Probably the kids who were here." "Folded and trapped," the quiet boy muttered. "Trapped how?" the girl with the camcorder asked, turning the lens on the figures. A sudden noise made them all jump. A floorboard creaked somewhere beyond the door. "Probably just the building settling," the tallest said, though his voice was less sure now. The girl with glasses pointed toward the blackboard. Chalk sketches and faint words were scrawled unevenly. "Look here, don't fold us in." "Sounds like a warning," the ponytailed girl said. A paper crane fluttered down from a desk, landing at the tallest boy's feet. He picked it up, opening a folded note inside. It says, "We didn't leave." What does that mean? No idea, the quiet boy replied, but it sounds like someone was here recently. The girl with the camcorder raised her voice just a little. Let's keep moving, see what else we can find. They crossed the room slowly, flashlights revealing layers of dust and forgotten lessons scrawled in faded marker. On the teacher's desk lay a notebook, its pages yellowed. The ponytailed girl flipped it open, scanning the cramped handwriting. More folding instructions, she said. And names. Lots of names, some crossed out in red. Crossed out? The tallest boy asked. Yeah, she said quietly, like someone was erasing them. The quiet boy frowned. That can't be good. Suddenly, a faint whisper seemed to drift on the stale air, almost too soft to catch. Did you hear that? The girl with the camcorder whispered, pausing. Probably the wind, the tallest said quickly. Let's not get jumpy. They gathered near the door, eyes darting nervously. We should head to the next classroom, the ponytailed girl said. See if there's more. The door creaked again, louder this time. The quiet boy swallowed. Let's go. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway, the paper children sitting silently behind them. The hallway stretched ahead, dim and silent except for the soft padding of footsteps on cracked tile. The group moved carefully, flashlights sweeping the walls lined with faded lockers and peeling paint. The girl with glasses glanced over her shoulder. That last room, it felt like the walls were watching. The tall boy shrugged. Schools do that, don't they? Old buildings have a way of making you feel small. Maybe, the quiet boy said, eyes fixed on the cracked ceiling. Or maybe it's something else. The girl with the camcorder flicked the recording light on and off. Let's focus. We're here to find answers, not get scared. They stopped in front of a classroom door marked 7A. The paint was chipped, the frame splintered. The tall boy pushed it open slowly. Inside, the room was darker, the curtains drawn tight. Dust lay thick on every surface and more paper figures cluttered the desks. Boats, cranes, and dozens of small folded children, some arranged in circles. The girl with glasses knelt beside a desk. These look older. Some are yellowed, torn. She picked one up and traced a faded name on its back. Jamie. The quiet boy peered at a notebook on the teacher's desk. More names here. Dates. Some matched the ones on the figures. The girl with the camcorder aimed her light at the chalkboard. Faint words were scrawled in messy handwriting. They watch. They wait. A chill brushed the group, and the tall boy swallowed hard. The girl with glasses whispered, "Do you think they know we're here?" A soft rustling sounded behind them. They spun around, flashlights crossing in frantic beams, but found nothing. "Probably just a rat," the quiet boy said, voice tense. The girl with the camcorder lowered her voice, "Or maybe something else." The room seemed to breathe around them, shadows deepening and shifting as if alive. A paper child on the desk twitched, its folded limbs stretching slowly. The girl with glasses gasped, dropping the figure. It unfolded, turning into a thin sheet that drifted like a ghost before settling back into its original shape. The tall boy took a cautious step back. "We're not alone here." The quiet boy nodded. "And whatever's here doesn't want us to leave." The girl with the camcorder whispered, "Keep moving. We need to understand." They gathered their things and headed toward the door, the paper children watching silently. As they stepped back into the hall, a faint chorus of whispers echoed softly, carried on the stale air. The girl with glasses shivered. "I don't like this place." The tall boy forced a smile. "We'll get what we came for, one step at a time." The corridor stretched ahead, darker now as the sun slipped behind thick clouds. Their footsteps echoed softly on the worn linoleum, each step stirring up faint clouds of dust. The girl with the camcorder glanced at the others. "We need to check the library next." The quiet boy nodded, adjusting his glasses. "If any answers exist, they'll be there." The ponytailed girl tugged her jacket tighter. "I hate how quiet it is, like the building's holding its breath." The tall boy paused, shining his flashlight down a side hallway. This way. The library door hung open, revealing shelves sagging under the weight of mouldy books. Broken glass littered the floor, and tattered curtains swayed slightly in a draught. Inside, paper figures cluttered the reading tables, folded boats, cranes, and hundreds of small humanoid shapes arranged in strange patterns. The girl with glasses picked up a paper child, fingertips trembling. Some of these have writing on their backs. She flipped one over. Waiting for us. The quiet boy scanned a dusty ledger left open on a desk. Names, dates, and notes, some crossed out with thick red ink. The ponytailed girl pointed at a wall calendar, frozen on October 31st, 1992, the day the school closed. A sudden creak made them all jump. The tall boy swung his flashlight toward the doorway. Nothing. The girl with the camcorder whispered, "We're not alone." The room seemed to pulse softly, the paper figures shifting, folding and unfolding in place. The quiet boy swallowed. "It's like they're alive." A faint whisper rose, barely audible, dozens of voices overlapping, whispering secrets no one should hear. The ponytailed girl stepped back, eyes wide. "We need to get out." But as they moved to leave, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. They were trapped. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them as the paper figures began to rise, forming a slow-moving wall of folded paper shapes. The tall boy gripped the edge of a table. "We have to find a way out." The girl with glasses nodded, voice shaking. "Before it's too late." The paper shapes pressed closer, their edges sharp and brittle, rustling like dry leaves. The air grew colder, thick with whispered voices that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. The quiet boy scanned the room frantically. There has to be a way out. Windows, maybe? The ponytailed girl moved toward a tall bookshelf, fingers trembling as she brushed past dusty volumes. Most are sealed tight or broken. The girl with the camcorder raised her flashlight to the ceiling. Any vents? Air ducts? The tall boy pointed to a narrow door at the back, half hidden behind stacks of old newspapers. "That looks like a janitor's closet. Could be an exit." They rushed over, but the door was locked. The boy rattled the handle. No luck. The whispering intensified, voices layering into a chilling chorus. Some sounded like children crying, others chanting strange phrases they couldn't understand. The girl with glasses crouched near a desk, picking up a folded note scrawled in shaky handwriting. "Unfold us. Free us." The ponytailed girl glanced nervously at the paper children arranged on the desks and floor. "What if they want us to fold them?" The tall boy shook his head. "That can't be right. Folding them could trap whoever's left inside." "But what if it's the only way to stop this?" the quiet boy asked. The camcorder clicked as the girl pressed record again. "We have to try something." With trembling hands, the girl with glasses unfolded one of the paper children. The folded figure came apart slowly, revealing a sheet covered in faint pencil drawings, maps, dates, and names. Suddenly, a cold gust swept through the room, scattering paper figures like leaves in a storm. The whispers swelled, then abruptly stopped. Silence fell. The door creaked open. They didn't hesitate. Breathing heavily, they slipped through the narrow gap and back into the dim hallway. The school seemed to settle, the cold retreating, but the weight of unseen eyes still pressing down. The ponytailed girl exhaled. "That was too close." The tall boy nodded. "But we have a clue now. Maybe more than one." The quiet boy looked back toward the library. "We're just getting started." The girl with the camcorder lowered her camera, her voice steady. "Let's keep moving." They walked on, deeper into the school's forgotten heart. The hall stretched ahead, dim and narrow, with faded, peeling wallpaper curling at the edges. Their footsteps echoed softly, swallowed by the heavy silence. The ponytailed girl slowed, eyes fixed on a cracked window near a locked classroom. "That room looks different, cleaner." The tall boy stepped forward, reaching for the door handle. Maybe someone used it more recently. The quiet boy peered through the dusty glass, spotting neat rows of desks and a bulletin board covered in yellowed papers. The girl with the camcorder nodded. "Let's check it out." Inside, the classroom smelled faintly of old chalk and musty paper. The desks were scarred but orderly, each adorned with a single folded paper figure, cranes, frogs, and small humanoid shapes. The ponytailed girl bent down, gently picking up a paper child with faded handwriting on its back. "Remember us." The tall boy found a torn notebook lying open on the teacher's desk. Its pages held sketches of folded paper, lists of names, and dates fading into smudges. The quiet boy traced a line through one name, whispering, "Someone tried to erase them." The girl with the camcorder swept her light over the room. "Look here." She pointed at the bulletin board, where photos of children were pinned, some faces scratched out. A chill passed through them. Suddenly a soft creak echoed. The ponytailed girl spun around, flashlight searching the shadows. "Just the building," the tall boy said, though his voice faltered. The quiet boy glanced at the window, eyes narrowing. Or something else. A paper crane fluttered to the floor, unfolding mid-air, its wings spreading like a ghost's sigh. The girl with the camcorder whispered, "We're not alone." The folded children on the desks seemed to shift, their edges curling toward the group. The ponytailed girl swallowed hard. "What do they want?" The tall boy exhaled slowly. "Answers, like us." The quiet boy added, "And maybe a way out." The soft scrape of footsteps echoed down the long hallway as the group moved toward the next door. The walls here were stained with age, paint blistered and cracking like the skin of forgotten memories. The ponytailed girl paused before a faded sign, Art Room 12. "This was where they did their projects," she said quietly. "Maybe we'll find something there." The tall boy pushed open the door, and a rush of stale air spilled out. Inside, tables were cluttered with dried glue, scraps of colored paper, and dozens of unfinished origami pieces. The girl with glasses crouched by a windowsill, her fingers tracing the patterns on a half-folded crane. They started these but never finished. The quiet boy knelt beside a shelf, pulling out a dusty journal. Its pages were filled with sketches of paper figures and notes about folding techniques. A sudden noise made them all freeze, a faint tapping coming from the back of the room. The ponytailed girl shone her flashlight toward the sound, revealing a loose panel in the wall, slightly ajar. The tall boy stepped forward cautiously. "Looks like a secret compartment." The girl with the camcorder lifted the panel, revealing a small pile of folded paper figures, some newer, crisp and white. The quiet boy picked up a figure shaped like a small child, its folds precise and sharp. "These are different, newer." A soft whisper seemed to rise from the pile. The ponytailed girl swallowed. "What are they trying to tell us?" The tall boy folded one figure carefully, then unfolded it, revealing a hidden message written inside. "Help us unfold." The girl with glasses looked around nervously. "Are they trapped? Or are they warnings?" The quiet boy's voice was barely audible. "Maybe both." The camcorder's red light blinked steadily as it recorded. Outside, the wind moaned through broken windows, carrying faint echoes of forgotten laughter. The group exchanged uneasy glances, knowing the school's secrets were folding tighter around them. The hallway outside the art room was colder, the fading light casting long shadows that seemed to reach and twist unnaturally along the cracked walls. The group moved cautiously, their footsteps muffled by years of dust. The ponytailed girl glanced at the others. "There's another wing this way. It looks less damaged." The tall boy nodded. "Might find more clues there." They approached a set of double doors marked auditorium. The wood was warped and peeling, but the brass handles gleamed faintly. The girl with glasses pushed one door open, and a rush of stale, cold air greeted them. Inside, rows of broken seats faced a stage draped in tattered curtains. Dust motes hung like ghosts in the shafts of flashlight beams. On the stage, dozens of paper figures were arranged in a semicircle, facing outward as if an invisible audience. The quiet boy stepped forward, voice low. "It looks like they're waiting." The ponytailed girl bent down, picking up a folded crane resting on a seat. Waiting for what? A sudden creak echoed from the backstage area, making them all jump. The tall boy motioned toward the darkened wings. "Let's check it out." They moved cautiously along the edge of the stage, flashlights illuminating broken props and faded set pieces. Behind a fallen backdrop, a cluster of paper children sat huddled around an old music box, its lid cracked and silent. The girl with the camcorder lifted one figure, unfolding it carefully to reveal a tiny folded note. "Sing the song to free us." The ponytailed girl's eyes widened. "A song?" The quiet boy looked toward the empty seats. "Maybe it's a key." The tall boy stepped onto the stage and scanned the shadows. "We need to find that song." The girl with glasses swallowed. "And hope it's still here." The air grew heavier, the whispers faint but persistent, threading through the silence like a haunting melody waiting to be heard. The wooden floorboards creaked beneath their feet as they crossed the stage, their flashlights slicing through the gloom. The faded curtains fluttered slightly, as if stirred by an unseen breath. The ponytailed girl crouched beside the silent music box. "Any idea how to make it play?" The quiet boy examined the rusted mechanism. "Looks broken. Maybe if we wind it up." He turned the small knob slowly. The gears ground with effort, then fell silent again. The girl with the camcorder panned her light over scattered sheet music piled on a nearby table. One page caught her eye, a faded score titled "Lullaby of the Lost." She pointed. "Maybe this is the song." The tall boy flipped through the sheets. "If we can play it, maybe it'll unlock something." The ponytailed girl nodded. But who would sing it? The quiet boy's gaze drifted to the paper children on the stage, their folded faces turned toward them expectantly. "I'll try," he said quietly. He cleared his throat and began to hum softly. The melody was shaky at first, but grew steadier. As the notes filled the auditorium, the paper figures trembled, their edges fluttering like fragile wings. A gentle breeze stirred the curtains, and for a moment the room seemed to glow with a faint, ethereal light. The humming grew louder, weaving through the shadows until the music box suddenly clicked and began to play, a delicate, haunting tune. The paper children shifted, unfolding slowly, releasing thin sheets of paper that floated upward like leaves in a slow dance. Whispers filled the air, overlapping voices murmuring thanks, longing, and farewell. The girl with glasses wiped a tear. "They're free." The tall boy exhaled deeply. "But where do they go now?" The ponytailed girl looked toward the exit. "Somewhere beyond here. Hopefully." The quiet boy nodded. "Maybe we're meant to follow." The music faded, leaving silence and the lingering scent of old paper and hope. The hallway beyond the auditorium seemed to stretch on forever, its lights buzzing faintly overhead. Faded classroom doors lined both sides, some hanging off their hinges, others shut tight with locks rusted by years of neglect. They walked slowly, careful not to disturb the quiet that pressed around them like a heavy blanket. "This part of the building looks even older," the girl with glasses said, scanning the walls with her flashlight. The ponytailed girl stepped around a pile of fallen ceiling tiles. "It feels like no one's been here in decades." They reached a door marked Room 203, the paint nearly peeled away to bare wood. The tall boy tested the handle. It turned with a reluctant squeal. Inside, desks were stacked against the walls, leaving the center of the room clear. In the middle sat a folding table with what looked like hundreds of origami children, tiny, delicate, all arranged in a perfect spiral. The quiet boy approached slowly, crouching near the edge of the spiral. "They're all facing inward," he said. The ponytailed girl knelt beside him, like they're waiting for something. The girl with glasses leaned closer, careful not to breathe too hard, or guarding something. Near the center of the spiral, a single figure stood taller than the others, folded from black construction paper instead of white. She reached for it, then hesitated. "Don't," the quiet boy warned. "Every time we touch one of these, something happens." She pulled her hand back, nodding. "You're right, but we can't leave it either." The tall boy looked around the empty classroom. "It's like they put them here on purpose, arranged them for us to find." The ponytailed girl's voice dropped to a whisper. "Listen." They froze. A faint rustle, almost like paper shifting, carried through the room. The spiral of folded figures seemed to move, ever so slightly, as if a breeze had passed through them. No one breathed. The girl with glasses took a careful step back. Did they just turn?" "They're watching us," the quiet boy said. The tall boy swallowed, scanning for another exit. "This room feels wrong." A soft hiss, like 1,000 tiny paper cuts, slid across the floorboards. One of the figures near the outer edge toppled forward, then righted itself on folded feet. The ponytailed girl shivered. "I think it wants us to finish the pattern." The quiet boy looked at the black figure in the center, or unfold it. The girl with glasses clenched her fists. "We have to be sure." They circled the spiral carefully, trying not to brush against the fragile folds. The quiet boy knelt and examined the black paper child. There were letters inked on its back, so small they were nearly hidden in the creases. "Find our names." The tall boy looked around the walls, noticing faded writing beneath torn posters, names scrawled in childish, uneven script, half erased with time. He nodded. "They're here, all around the room." The ponytailed girl straightened up, eyes wide. "They want us to match them." The girl with glasses exhaled. "Then let's do it, before something worse happens." They began to search, tracing the faint, ghostly names, while the paper children watched in perfect folded silence. The girl with glasses stood near the chalkboard, squinting at the faint scrawl of a name beneath years of grime and water damage. "This one says, Evie, I think." She turned toward the paper figures. "There must be an Evie in the spiral." The ponytailed girl moved carefully along the inner curve of the spiral, scanning the delicate faces for anything that stood out. Each paper child had a single word written beneath its chin, tiny and faded. "Here," she said finally. "Evie!" It's in the third row from the edge. The quiet boy crouched beside it, hesitant. "Do we move her?" The tall boy shook his head. "Last time we touched one, the lights flickered and the TV..." He cut himself off, jaw tightening. "Just be careful." "I don't think we're supposed to move them," the ponytailed girl said. "Just say their name, like we've found them." "Evie," the girl with glasses repeated, directing the name toward the figure. Nothing happened. Then, after a long moment, the figure slowly bowed forward, as if acknowledging something. The paper around its shoulders fluttered briefly, though there was no wind. The quiet boy let out a breath. "Okay, that's one." They spent the next few minutes repeating the process, scanning the walls, matching a name, and finding the corresponding paper child in the spiral. Each time they spoke a name aloud, the figure acknowledged it with the same eerie motion. When they reached the sixth name, something changed. As the quiet boy whispered Josie, a low creaking noise echoed from behind the chalkboard. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow crawl space lit by a single flickering bulb. The group stood in silence. "No one's forcing us to go in there," the ponytailed girl said softly. "But we're not going to leave it alone either," the girl with glasses replied. The tall boy grabbed a metal pointer from the teacher's desk and used it to test the space ahead. "Doesn't look trapped," he muttered. The quiet boy ducked through first, crouching low. The others followed. The crawl space was tighter than it looked, barely enough room to move without dragging against the walls. Dust coated every surface. On the far side they found another classroom, room 204, this one untouched by time. The windows were boarded over, but the desks were all in place, the chalkboard clean, the teacher's name, Mrs. E. Lale, written neatly in white cursive. "This looks new," the ponytailed girl whispered. "It's impossible," the tall boy said. "Everything else is decayed, abandoned. This room looks like someone was teaching here yesterday." The girl with glasses pointed to the desk at the front of the room. A stack of papers sat neatly arranged. She picked one up. A seating chart. Dozens of names listed, each with a small black check mark beside it. All except for 4, circled in red. Their names. She dropped the paper. "Nope. Nope. This is messed up." The quiet boy's face went pale. "This isn't just some old school. It's watching us." Before they could respond, a faint shuffling sound echoed from behind the teacher's desk. They weren't alone. The tall boy raised the metal pointer like a weapon, motioning for the others to stay back. The sound came again, soft, like paper dragging over tile, and then a whisper. A real whisper. Not like the TV's garbled tones, not like the dreamlike murmurs they'd heard in the halls. This one was sharp and low, and it came from the other side of the desk. The quiet boy edged closer, his eyes wide. "Don't." Too late. The tall boy stepped forward and leaned to peer around the desk. He froze. The others saw his spine stiffen, the pointer trembling slightly in his hand. It's not a person," he said in a hushed voice. "It's a doll, I think." The ponytailed girl stepped up beside him, breath held. Behind the desk sat a large rag doll, slumped in a wooden child's chair, its limbs made of canvas, its head stitched into a near smile. Large black button eyes stared out blankly. It wore a child's uniform, grey skirt, white shirt, maroon tie. The name tag on its chest read Hall Monitor. The whisper came again, from the doll. Its stitched mouth didn't move, but the sound seemed to leak from it. "Return to your seats." The group staggered back. "Run," the girl with glasses said, barely able to say the word. But the classroom door slammed shut. They turned, trying to pry it open, but it held firm. The whispering grew louder, echoing from every wall. "Return to your seats! Return! Return!" Desks began dragging across the floor on their own, arranging into rows. Paper slips fluttered from the ceiling, falling like snow. Each had one of their names written on it in red ink. The tall boy kicked at the door. "This isn't real. This is some projection, some Channel Zero. Crap." The ponytailed girl pointed to the chalkboard. New words had appeared there. "Attendance is mandatory." Beneath that, 4 empty lines waited. Then, like a breath of wind, the doll's whisper changed. "Someone is absent." A pulse ran through the room. The lights flickered, the air turned sharp and dry. From the back of the classroom, a desk rattled violently and flipped on its side, and then the temperature dropped. The windows behind the boards began to frost, cracks spidering outward. The girl with glasses clutched her arm. "I think something's coming, something that knows we're not supposed to be here." "We need to get out," the quiet boy said. "But how?" The ponytailed girl asked. The answer came from above. One of the ceiling tiles rattled, then dropped. A small wooden ladder extended upward into darkness. They didn't question it. The tall boy boosted the quiet one up, followed by the ponytailed girl and the girl with glasses. As the last of them climbed, the doll's voice rose in pitch, no longer whispering but hissing, "Class is in session!" The tall boy yanked the ladder up behind him as they disappeared into the crawl space above. They were out of the classroom, but they weren't out of the school. The crawl space above the classroom was cramped and pitch black. The only illumination came from the flickering green glow that still poured faintly from the screens of their handheld monitors, clutched tightly in shaking hands. Dust coated everything. Thick strands of old insulation hung like spider webs. They moved on hands and knees, the ceiling too low to stand. Pipes groaned beneath their weight. Somewhere below them, the doll's voice continued to echo, distant now, but still reciting broken classroom rules, as if it were trying to remember how to be human. Why is there even a crawl space above a classroom? The ponytailed girl whispered. No school's built like this, the tall boy muttered. Not unless it was hiding something. The quiet boy stopped crawling. He pressed his ear to the floor, listening. The girl with glasses waited. What is it? There's something humming, he whispered. Not voices. Something mechanical. They all stilled, listening. It was faint, but there, below them, somewhere further inside the building, a low, continuous whirring sound, too smooth to be an air conditioner, too deliberate to be random static. Electrical room, maybe? The tall boy guessed. No, it's rhythmic, the quiet one said, like a projector. The ponytailed girl looked over her shoulder. Then we follow it. If something's projecting all of this, the whispering, the rooms changing, the doll, maybe we can shut it down. They kept crawling, turning corners through the ductwork like maze until the sound grew louder. The crawl space began to slope downward, and the boards under their knees vibrated subtly with each pulse. Then the quiet boy stopped again. Wait. They were at a crossbeam. Beneath it, a wide rectangular grate opened down into a darkened auditorium. The rows of ancient seats below were coated in dust, but on the stage was a working projector, humming softly. It faced a large, crumbling screen, but the image on the screen was far too sharp, clear, too real. From the crawl space they saw it. The screen showed a single hallway. Not just any hallway, this hallway. The same ceiling pattern, same broken light panel. Is that a feed? The ponytailed girl whispered. Is it showing us? Now? But as they watched, a shadow moved across the screen. A tall shape too thin, its limbs just slightly longer than they should be. It didn't walk so much as tilt forward and glide, always just out of focus. It passed through the screen's hallway like it was patrolling it. What the hell is that? The tall boy murmured. They watched in tense silence. Then the shadow paused and turned. It looked up, not at the camera, not at the hallway, at them, in the crawl space. They flinched backward, bumping into each other. Below, the screen flickered and turned to static. The projector's hum deepened, whining like it was straining. Then the grate they'd been leaning on creaked sharply. The girl with glasses looked down just in time to see something moving beneath the stage, something shifting in the shadows. Pale fingers slid from between the floorboards like roots seeking air. Go, the quiet boy hissed. Back! Now! They scrambled in reverse, limbs colliding, panic overcoming silence. Behind them, the projector exploded in a burst of sparks. The screen tore as if something massive had pushed through it. By the time they reached the last corner of the crawl space, the whirring sound had turned into a distant clicking. Click, click, click. Each sound matched the rhythm of steps following just below. They dropped from the crawl space into a dim storage closet, landing hard on a floor cluttered with toppled desks and rusted filing cabinets. The room reeked of mildew and dry rot. For a moment, no one spoke. They just sat there, panting, listening. The clicking was gone. Outside the door, the hallway was silent. The ponytailed girl pressed her back against the wall, her knees pulled to her chest. It looked at us, through the screen. It wasn't a screen, the quiet boy said. It was a window, or a mirror. I don't know, but it could see. Why is there even a projector room underneath a school stage? The tall boy muttered, pacing. None of this makes sense. None of this is supposed to, the girl with glasses said flatly. She was inspecting one of the filing cabinets, her hands shaking as she pried it open. This place is stitched together. Wrong. It's like someone took a school, broke it, and put it back in the shape of a memory. They all looked at her. Like a dream you can't wake up from, she added, quieter, one that keeps resetting. The quiet boy moved toward the door and slowly turned the handle. It opened with a groan. The hallway outside was unfamiliar again, this one narrower than the last, with wood panelling and faded mustard-yellow lockers along the walls. The lighting flickered overhead, but it was warmer here, almost nostalgic. Old posters hung on the walls. One read, "Citizenship starts with you." Another displayed a smiling cartoon pencil waving beside the words, "Test day tomorrow." "Intact," the ponytailed girl said, stepping closer. "These posters weren't here before." "No mold, no damage," the tall boy said. "It's like this section's preserved. It wants us to think we're safe again," the quiet boy said, "that it's normal." A distant bell rang, soft and low, like it had been recorded decades ago. Classroom doors along the hallway clicked open all at once. The group froze. Then one of the doors swung wide, revealing a dim classroom interior. Fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Inside, rows of desks sat neatly arranged. At the front stood a teacher, not a person, but a blank shape, as if someone had tried to draw a teacher from memory and left the face empty. The figure didn't move. It simply pointed one hand toward the front row. "Assigned seating," the girl with glasses whispered. The bell rang again, and all around them, the other classroom doors began creaking open too. They backed away from the open door, but there was no retreat. Every classroom along the hall was now open, and each one had a faceless teacher figure waiting at the front. Some stood with arms folded, others held rulers or chalk. None had faces. All pointed to the rows of desks. The hallway dimmed slightly, and then a soft sound began, the scratch of pencils on paper, dozens of them coming from the rooms. A rhythmic, mechanical sound. No students were visible. "We're supposed to sit down," the ponytailed girl said, barely audible. "We're not doing that," the tall boy said. "You sit down, you're not getting back up." The girl with glasses stepped forward, frowning. "But maybe we're supposed to pretend, play along. That projector, it showed us things, but it didn't hurt us. Maybe this place operates like a script." The quiet boy stared at her. "What happens when you go off script?" The answer came quickly. A door at the far end of the hallway slammed shut, the echo cracking like a gunshot. Then came the slow stomp of footsteps, heavy, uneven. 1, 2, pause, 1, 2, pause. It was coming closer. The tall boy pulled open a locker, found it empty. "In here, just get in, all of us." "Won't work," the girl with glasses said. "It'll know." "You have a better idea?" She looked at the nearest open classroom. "Maybe we do what it wants, for now." "No way," the tall boy growled. "I'm not sitting down in front of one of those things." But the footsteps were louder now. Scrape, thud, scrape, thud. The quiet boy made the decision. He stepped into the classroom with the first faceless teacher and sat in the front row. The teacher's arm dropped, the scratching of pencils stopped, the classroom lights steadied. Then, one by one, the others followed. Each entered a different classroom, finding an empty desk. The ponytailed girl's breath was shallow as she sat. The tall boy swore under his breath, dragging his chair out with a screech. Only the girl with glasses remained standing in the hallway. She turned just as the approaching sound stopped. At the end of the corridor, something stood. Not a teacher, not a student. It was tall, too tall, wearing the tattered remnants of a school uniform. Its face was stitched together, as if made from overlapping masks. Hands, too many of them, hung from beneath its sleeves. It took a single step forward. The girl with glasses ducked into the last open room and slammed the door shut behind her. Inside the classroom, the door clicked softly behind her. The girl with glasses leaned against it, her breathing shallow, heart pounding so hard she was afraid the faceless teacher at the front of the room might hear it. But the figure didn't move. Its hand rested on the chalkboard, frozen mid-gesture, as though waiting for her to obey. Desks were arranged in perfect rows. One seat remained empty. She stepped carefully between them, her sneakers nearly silent on the floor. The students seated around her, just shadows, silhouettes frozen mid-writing, didn't react. She slid into the vacant seat. The teacher moved. Its chalk arm dropped to its side, and then slowly raised, writing in smooth, fluid strokes. Lesson 1, attendance. A roll call began, though no voice spoke. Instead, the chalk dragged itself across the board on its own, spelling names as though from memory. Each name was met with a mechanical rustle from one of the desked figures, a hand raised, a pencil tapped, a slight nod. It went on for 30 names. Then it paused. New student. The girl's eyes flicked to the board. Her name appeared without being spoken. Mira Calloway. She didn't raise her hand. The teacher figure slowly turned toward her, head tilting unnaturally far. "I'm here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The chalk resumed moving. Lesson 2, Correction. The door behind her locked with a loud clunk. Suddenly, every shadowed student turned toward her. Their faces were smudges, blurred, flickering, half erased. Their hands were wrong, too long, too thin, fingers like dry brushstrokes. The teacher picked up a ruler and stepped away from the board. Mira shot to her feet. "No," she said sharply, "this isn't a lesson. This is a performance, and I'm not your actor." The classroom lights flickered violently. The air buzzed with tension. One of the faceless students stood, reaching toward her, hand trembling with insect-like precision. Then someone outside began banging on the classroom door. 3 sharp knocks. A pause, then 1 knock, then 2 more. She froze. The knocks repeated. 3, 1, 2. Then came a whisper, just audible over the scratching chalk. "Don't forget." Mira ran to the window, yanked it open, but there was only blackness outside, thick and heavy like tar. No escape. The whisper came again, this time inside the room. "Don't forget what you are." The whisper faded, replaced by silence so thick it pressed in on Mira's ears like deep water. She turned from the window, breath catching in her throat. The classroom was empty. Every desk, every shadow, gone. Even the faceless teacher had vanished, leaving behind only a ruler, cracked down the middle, resting on the floor where it had stood. The chalkboard now bore a single phrase, scrawled in uneven white letters, Room 19. Mira didn't understand. She wasn't in Room 19, was she? She looked at the classroom door. The plaque outside had said 17. That she was sure of. She stepped forward slowly, feeling the absence more than the silence. There was no hum of fluorescent lights now, no ticking clock, no movement in the shadows, just that phrase on the board. She stepped closer. Something about the words felt wrong. Not just the message, but the way they sat there, as if etched directly into her thoughts. She reached out and wiped her hand across the board. It didn't smudge. It didn't even feel like chalk. The letters were etched deep, grooves gouged into the board's surface like claw marks. She backed away and turned toward the door. When she pulled it open, the hallway beyond wasn't the one she'd come from. Instead of the dim, water-stained corridor lined with lockers and peeling posters, this new hallway was narrow, windowless, and pulsing with red light. The floor looked like linoleum at first, but no, it was softer, spongy. She tested it with her foot. It gave under her weight like damp insulation. A low mechanical hum filled the space. She stepped into it. The door shut quietly behind her. The hallway curved, impossibly so. The angle made no architectural sense. It bent like it was following the inside of a cylinder. The red glow came from a series of exit signs, each one reading Room 19 ahead, though their arrows pointed in opposite directions. Her fingers brushed one of the walls. It was warm, and it throbbed. She snapped her hand back. Okay, think. You got in. You can get out. But when she turned around, the door she'd come through was gone. Just more hallway. Identical curves, identical signs. And then voices. Not close, far off, distorted. Mira stepped toward them, drawn forward until she could make out the words. Not your room. Too early. She's not ready yet. She slowed. The hallway ended abruptly in a set of double doors, modern ones, metal-framed, with smoked glass windows. Behind them, the voices stopped. On the right pane, smeared across the glass in a brownish-red streak, were the words, "You weren't supposed to see this." Mira's hand trembled as she reached for the door handle. The glass was cold beneath her fingers, but the smear of red, was it paint? Blood, felt sticky and alive. She pulled the doors open, and the hum inside swallowed her whole. The room beyond was vast and empty, lit only by rows of blinking machines lining the walls. Screens flickered with static, some showing distorted images of hallways and classrooms, others displaying unreadable codes and shifting patterns of light. In the center stood a lone chair facing a massive monitor, its screen dark but waiting. Mira stepped forward cautiously, the soft carpet muffling her footsteps. A crackling sound broke the silence. The monitor flickered to life. A face appeared, blurred, shifting like a heat haze. The voice that followed was mechanical, distant but unmistakably human. "Welcome, subject. Observation has commenced." She glanced around, heart pounding. "Subject, observation." The screen switched to a series of images, shadows moving through hallways, figures folding paper children, faceless teachers writing on blackboards. Mira's breath caught as she recognized herself in some frames, her own terrified expression frozen in time. "Why am I here?" she whispered. The voice continued, monotone and unfeeling. "Containment and study of aberrant cognitive responses. Compliance is mandatory for continued existence." A cold shiver ran down her spine. She spun around, but the room remained empty. No doors, no windows. Only the machines hummed, watching. She moved toward the chair, instinctively pulling it back, but the screen flashed again. Resistance detected. Static burst across the screen, and a sudden jolt surged through the floor beneath her feet. Mira stumbled, caught herself. The walls seemed to close in. Her mind screamed for escape, but the machine waited, and the voice repeated, unwavering, "Compliance ensures survival." Outside the door, faint footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate. Mira swallowed hard. The experiment was far from over. The footsteps grew louder, echoing through the metallic chamber like the ticking of a dark clock counting down. Mira's eyes darted around, searching for any means of escape, but the room remained a sealed cage. The machines hummed in unison, their lights pulsing rhythmically, syncing with her racing heartbeat. Her fingers trembled as she reached toward the chair. The cold plastic seat seemed both a throne and a trap. With no other option, she sank down, bracing herself. The monitor flickered again, displaying fragmented images, flashes of faces she barely recognized, distorted memories, and twisted scenes of classrooms where shadows moved with malicious intent. The mechanical voice returned, monotone but insistent. "Subject compliance required. Cognitive integration necessary." Mira swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" Static interrupted her voice. Then, unexpectedly, a new image appeared. A paper crane unfolding slowly, delicate and intricate. The whisper of a child's voice whispered behind the hum, "Remember who you are." She blinked, heart pounding. The chair vibrated softly beneath her, as if responding to the message. The room's lights dimmed slightly, and a narrow passageway illuminated along one wall, barely visible at first, but growing clearer with every second. Mira's breath caught. A way out? But before she could move, the monitor flashed once more. Observation extended, resistance noted. The humming intensified. The air thickened. From the shadows near the glowing exit, a figure emerged, tall and thin, its form shimmering like fractured glass. Its face was a shifting mosaic of paper scraps, edges curling and fluttering as if caught in an unseen breeze. The paper figure reached out a hand, fragile yet unnervingly alive. Mira stood abruptly, heart hammering. She faced the being and whispered, "I won't forget." The paper figure's hand hovered inches from Mira's face, trembling like a leaf in a storm. Its edges fluttered softly, the rustle of folded paper whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. Mira held her ground, breathing steady despite the pounding in her chest. "What are you?" she demanded. The figure's form shimmered, shifting between delicate origami and a more solid humanoid shape. Its button eyes, made of torn pages, focused on her with a strange, aching sadness. "I am the memory you forgot," it said, voice like the crinkle of dry leaves. The story left unfinished. Mira shook her head. I don't understand. The paper being stepped closer, each movement slow and deliberate. You folded me once, created me from your past, your pain. But you left me here, trapped between what was and what could have been. Her mind flashed back, images of her childhood, moments she'd tried to erase, a forgotten friendship, an apology never made, a silence filled with empty words. You left me behind, the figure whispered, and now you must remember to set me free. Mira's eyes welled with tears she hadn't realized were coming. How? The paper figure extended its other hand, revealing a small, fragile origami bird. Finish the story, unfold the truth. She reached out, fingers trembling, and took the delicate crane. As she held it, the room seemed to breathe, the machine's hum softening into a gentle rhythm. Mira understood. The path forward was through memory, through acceptance. With a steadying breath, she whispered, I'm ready. The fragile origami crane trembled lightly in Mira's hands, its edges delicate as if the slightest pressure might cause it to crumble. She stared down at the paper bird, tracing the faint pencil lines where the folds met, feeling the weight of unspoken stories pressing on her chest. The paper figure nodded slowly, the rustling sound like a sigh. Unfold me, and the way will open. Mira glanced around the room, searching for a surface to work on. The chair beside her was cold and unyielding, but it would have to do. She set the crane gently, her fingers trembling as she began to reverse the folds, undoing each crease with care. As the paper unfolded, the shapes shifted, revealing fragments of faded drawings, tiny sketches of children laughing, a tree with outstretched branches, a sun half hidden behind clouds. The machines around her emitted a low hum that grew louder, as if responding to the unfolding story. Lights pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. With the final fold undone, the paper lay flat, a simple square of white with a small handwritten word in the center, remember. A sudden rush of warmth flooded the room. The oppressive hum softened into a gentle breeze that caressed Mira's skin. The paper figure smiled, a small, wistful curl of its folded mouth. Now the door is open. Before her, the metal wall rippled like water, shimmering and dissolving to reveal a narrow passage bathed in soft golden light. Mira stood, heart pounding with cautious hope. This is the way out, the figure said. She took a step forward. But as her foot crossed the threshold, the words, remember who you are, echoed once more, whispering through the air like a promise and a warning. Mira swallowed hard, ready to face whatever came next. The golden light spilled into the corridor, softening the harsh edges of the metal walls as Mira stepped through the shimmering doorway. The air shifted, filled now with the faint scent of old paper and fresh rain. She paused, taking a steadying breath, the weight of the paper crane still lingering in her palm. Ahead, the hallway stretched narrow and endless, lined with rows of tall wooden lockers painted in muted pastels, colors that seemed both familiar and out of place. The floor beneath her feet was worn linoleum, scuffed from countless footsteps, but strangely warm. Her footsteps echoed softly as she moved forward, each step stirring the quiet memories that hummed beneath the surface of this place. Faint voices fluttered just beyond hearing, like echoes of children calling from long ago. As Mira rounded a corner, a door creaked open ahead. She hesitated, then moved closer. Inside was a small classroom bathed in afternoon light filtering through dusty windows. Desks were scattered, papers littered the floor, and an old chalkboard bore half-erased equations and doodles. On one desk lay a folded piece of paper, the unmistakable shape of an origami crane. Mira reached out and picked it up, unfolding it carefully. Inside was a note, written in shaky, familiar handwriting. The past isn't a place to hide from, but a story to face. You've come this far. Don't turn away now. A shiver ran down her spine. Suddenly the classroom door slammed shut behind her. The soft laughter of children echoed all around, and the walls seemed to breathe. The laughter swelled into a chorus, soft and hollow, filling the classroom with an eerie warmth that set Mira's skin on edge. Shadows flickered along the walls, stretching and twisting as if alive, moving just beyond her sight. She turned toward the door, hands trembling, but it wouldn't budge. The latch was locked tight. Panic edged her breath as the room began to change. Desks rearranged themselves with quiet scraping sounds, forming tight circles. Papers fluttered up like startled birds, swirling around her in a whirlwind of forgotten memories. The chalkboard flickered, the equations dissolving into scrawled words. Tell the story. Mira's eyes locked on the message. She swallowed, heart pounding. What story? She whispered. A single paper crane floated into view, gliding through the air toward her. It landed softly on the desk before her, unfolding gently to reveal a faded photograph. Children standing outside the school, smiling, arms linked. Mira recognized herself among them, younger and carefree, but the faces around her were blurred, indistinct. The room seemed to pulse with quiet urgency. Finish it, a whisper urged. She picked up a piece of chalk, fingers shaking as she approached the blackboard. Her hand hovered, then traced a tentative line, beginning a story she thought she had forgotten. Each stroke of chalk brought the room to life. The laughter grew louder, the shadows steadied, and the walls brightened. Mira understood. The story was hers to tell. The memories she had buried beneath layers of silence. And until she told it, this place would not let her go. With the chalk trembling between her fingers, Mira began to write. Her words spilled out slowly at first, fragments of memory, half-formed thoughts, feelings long buried. The classroom seemed to hold its breath, watching as the story unfolded. She wrote of friendships lost to time, of secrets kept and apologies never spoken, of laughter that once filled these halls, and of silence that followed like a shadow. Each sentence was a thread, weaving together the tapestry of a past she had tried to forget. As her writing deepened, the room changed around her. The once flickering lights steadied into a warm glow. The shadows softened, taking on familiar shapes, a friend's smile, a teacher's kind eyes, a childhood pet waiting patiently by the door. The chalkboard now held a full story, a story of hope, pain, and growth. When Mira finally set the chalk down, the room fell silent again. But it was no longer cold or oppressive. It felt alive, as if the walls themselves had breathed a sigh of relief. The classroom door clicked open. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and beyond the threshold a hallway stretched out, bright, real, and welcoming. Mira stepped forward, heart lighter, carrying with her the story that had once been lost. But just as she crossed into the light, the whisper returned, soft and sure. Remember who you are. The hallway stretched endlessly before Mira, bathed in soft morning light that filtered through tall windows. The scent of fresh paper and warm wood filled the air, a stark contrast to the cold metal corridors she had left behind. Each step she took echoed gently, a rhythmic reminder that she was moving forward, toward something new. Lockers lined the walls, their pastel paint chipped but welcoming, adorned with faded stickers and scratched initials. Voices drifted softly from classrooms ahead, fragments of laughter and whispered conversations weaving through the air like a comforting lullaby. Mira paused by a classroom door, its window fogged but glowing faintly. She pressed her palm to the glass, feeling the warmth of the world beyond. Inside, children sat at their desks, heads bowed in concentration, faces alive with innocence and hope. A soft breeze brushed her cheek, carrying a single folded crane that fluttered gently to the floor at her feet. She bent down, picking it up carefully. Unfolding it, she found a simple message written inside. You are not forgotten. A sense of peace washed over her. The weight she had carried, the fear, the confusion, the isolation began to lift. Mira straightened, turning back to the hallway. The exit signs above glowed a steady green now, pointing toward a door at the far end. With a final glance at the classroom, she stepped forward. The door creaked open, revealing a world beyond, bright, real, and waiting. As she crossed the threshold, the whisper echoed once more, softer than before. "Remember who you are." And this time, Mira did. The screen snapped to black with an abrupt click, the room falling silent except for the low hum of the old television cooling down. Jake blinked a few times, his face twisted in open confusion. He turned to Mara. "I have no idea what the fuck that was." She looked just as baffled. Yeah, that made absolutely no sense. Jake ran a hand through his hair, eyes still on the screen like it might offer an apology. It was like watching a TV show made by someone who was on LSD. They both broke into laughter, the kind that came from disbelief as much as amusement. Mara wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. God, I hope the next one actually makes sense. I need to be at least somewhat entertained, not feel like I just spun around 50,000 times and then tried to do math. Jake chuckled, pushing himself off the bed. "Let's try another room, then. Maybe the next show's less brain-melting." They grabbed their things, heading for the door, the echo of their laughter trailing behind as the Channel Zero logo flickered faintly in the dark.